you know.
So,
Um,
so you can, Steve. Maybe you just want to reintroduce yourself, and you've given me a beautiful backstory to your journey so far in the toys and games, toys industry, and obviously a veteran now of the toy space. And you've recently launched Kid at Heart. So maybe you want to just continue sharing the story around this unique brand with your unique perspective.
yeah, thank you. Kid at Heart, Kid at Heart is something really special to me. I like to say that it is easier to make something that is already mass market cool than it is to make something cool mass market. And when I think about Kid at Heart, I think it's something that is within all of us. I think it's a feeling and a word and an idea that just universally resonates. And my eye has been trained to see the world through this perspective and to gravitate and hone in on products that unlock that feeling, that Kid at Heart feeling that's, I believe, is good for the world. It's good for business. It's good for soul. And this industry, is something that isn't a job for me. This industry as like a as a Ukrainian immigrant, like it's a purpose. It's a deeper responsibility that I feel to not just myself and my family to provide for them, but for like the future generation of kids. um, I look at the art world right now, and like artists like Daniel Arsham or Takashi Murakami or Cause are so obviously influenced by play and by toys and by video games that I can clearly see this connection between toy and culture. And I think toys have a huge role in that. So Kid at Heart, the agency, we help identify not necessarily the biggest shifts in consumerism or play, but things that upgrade what is familiar, things that make something that you already do 5% better. And that it might sound like a small difference, but it's not. It's often category busting. And two of the two first clients that I'm focused on now, the first company is called Solid Roots, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they think about play in the most unique way. The founder, it taught me a term called unschooling. She unschools her two children, and I just feel like these kids are so well versed and so like in charge of their own destiny and timeline, and honing in on these amazing interests that are self-discovered instead of a traditionalist concept telling you to do something. It just feels like such a deeper education. And they take their products and games and think about unschooling and connecting people through play and multi-generational connections. Like, play is not just for children. Each product has to think about the mom and the grandparent, in some ways. And Solid Roots feels that way in everything that they do. The second client, Gel Blaster, which is the reason why this conversation has started, but I think Gel Blaster introduces a new term I'm using called kidsercise. Kids have watched their parents Zoom and YouTube exercise at home for the last year, and they've seen their parents cook more than they ever have. They've hopefully have seen them do face masks and other like Korean beauty and self-care as the rise of that idea of improving self. it has been around them. I think exercise could be a very important space for the toy industry to play in, except it can't just be like dumbbells and, and just kids yoga mats. You need to camouflage the activity. You need to play for the same stakes that video games play at. That's why I love Gel Blaster so much, because it hurts just enough to know that you don't want to get shot. Like, it makes you run around. It makes you, do crazy rolls and hide behind every obstacle that you can find in your yard. Like, it makes you're immersed in this world. And when you achieve this like flow state, which is something people talk about in competition, and people talk about in writing and in painting, like the whole world, or running, like that runner's high that people talk about. It's that flow state where everything else around you doesn't matter. You're encapsulated in play. And that whatever emerges from those moments, I think is the creation of positive energy, and is really powerful.
I love the way you express that, and I agree with you. The idea of flow states. I think kids are already kind of tapped into flow states, and the beauty of it's and that's where kind of meditation. I used to love someone called Jason Silver. You might be familiar with it. He does these YouTube series, slightly off track, called Shots of Awe. He does 2-minute sound bites, and he talked a lot about flow states and how to create flow states. But toys and products that bring you into those experiences, and actually aren't just for the kids, but for the whole family. I think kids what exercise. What was a term you like? Exercise, but how did you
Kidsercise?
exercise?
Kidsercise, yeah.
So so for you, Gel Blaster is really about that, and so my background's augmented reality, and we actually created a product where it was called Smart Toys, where we actually integrated we integrated AR into for Nerf guns. The idea that you can recycle Nerf guns and integrate your phone, and we have an add-on, and the idea, and then you've got it's a edutainment. So you've got games that you can play where kids can. It's a multiplayer interactive experience where you can play with your friend in another room or another building, another house, and you have creatures coming out your walls, and then through the game you would defend a particular location. The idea is that you would integrate licensed content and skin that over the top of the experience. And that, when I first saw the Gel Blaster, I thought, well, that might be an interesting way of creating a multiplayer aspect to the experience, and you weren't limited to, and for example, during time of COVID, people couldn't play together, so maybe playing with someone's virtual avatar, and then you can integrate creatures, but within the experience, or you could also integrate other people's avatar characters that you can overlay onto someone else, that you can shoot characters or creatures from either popular game shows, or turn a person into an avatar character as well. But we've actually put that to one side, so that's not something that we're doing now. So, but my focus is to identify where AR and digital really adds value to the world of toys and games. And why I wanted to connect with you was to understand from your perspective where you saw the value in digital and the value in these new technologies to increase the play.
Yeah. I mean, don't take this the wrong way. Everything that has existed in the toy industry that encompasses AR has sucked.
I know.
Like, except for sucked.
Yes. Yes, this is a good place to start the conversation. I completely agree with you.
It just, so the fact that you said you were focused on researching where AR adds value makes this conversation significantly better for me, because I think you have to accept that truth in order to get the most out of me in terms of where AR could actually be applied, because everything to date has sucked.
I accept that truth completely. I see that it's failed, and that's why it hasn't. No one's figured this. No one's worked it out. My background, just to give you a sense, my background is pure animation. So I was an animator originally, a concept artist, a character designer, and then I produced a director of commercials and music videos, and I worked on animation series as a storyboard artist. So I come from the world of pure animation, and then I became an animation multidisciplinarian, like, let's say. And then I just shifted to immersive storytelling, so immersive theater. I had my own space, and so I got really inspired by Punch Drunk, actually, who are now partnered with Niantic. So actually, Niantic, I think it wasn't a fluke what they did with Pokemon Go.
No.
It was a really well thought out and well executed.
Okay, that did not suck.
No,
that was.
Well, the gameplay wasn't great, but the actual it was enough to because it was a $1 billion product, right? So
right, it was epic. Yeah,
as a genius idea. So the question is, what next? And from my perspective, coming into the space, I'm completely with you. Everything I've seen so far, all the shows and whatever, and nothing has landed yet. And what I'm doing is speaking to industry experts like yourself to say, why do you think that's the case? Firstly, and secondly, where is the potential? Because there is.
It has to be.
Of course. Well, there is.
I mean, I'll say first and foremost, the piece of plastic that goes with the phone was only there to build towards a price point. So the AR, like, let's say it was a racing game, that wheel, you didn't need the wheel. You could move your phone like this too. It didn't add anything. Usually the piece of plastic that you put your phone into does not do anything that cool. The other most common AR play pattern that toy people think that they can get away with is by putting a random animation as a secondary kind of, it's not just the figurine. When you scan it and look through your phone, it comes to life. And that play pattern is boring because it lasts one time, and it doesn't move the needle. It doesn't add value. And from a buyer perspective, they've heard it for like 5 years. Their eyes do not roll fast enough when you tell them that there's a scannable feature that brings the character to life on your phone. No one cares.
No one cares.
Now the QR code making a huge COVID comeback, I do think that there is some low-hanging fruit. I do think it could have been like really interesting. Like, for example, if you scan a menu at a restaurant, you get much more than just a fucking menu. Like, why isn't the item in VR, like, or AR? That would be sick. Like, if you can, do this and actually see the item that you're ordering, it would be nuts. Like, that application could be badass. But yeah, that's just a random thought I just had.
What about a digital brochure then? Do you see value in having traditional brochures where the AR avatar pops up and interacts with the physical world? Do you see value for consumers or manufacturers or
like for sure. Like, what I like about QR codes is that they are alive. So like, if you are adding instructions or maybe a brand new toy that doesn't necessarily, it just doesn't have, you don't know what you don't know. So there are edits that you need to do to your leaflets and pamphlets and whatever, and a QR code allows you to do that. You know, your product theoretically doesn't expire. You know, like you can update the graphics with it. I mean, you can get so crazy. Like, imagine if there is no packaging, that packaging doesn't exist. It's just a like hyper stylized, hyper like individualized box that changes for every consumer. You know, imagine if there was in the construction aisle, it was just black boxes with a QR code in a 4-foot section, and now the consumer has to discover, you know, their favorite toy through a QR code. It could be a horrible mess of a program and fail miserably, but I bet as I'm saying it, you can see a scenario where it becomes like the most disruptive thing in package design. You know, like, because I very much like technology through a sustainability perspective. Like,
to shift the whole model for packaging. That would be
exactly.
and
Like imagine if we do not spend energy and time creating packaging for all industry. It is a standardized box that is alive in real time because of AR.
that's
You know, like,
but then you
yeah.
have like a warehouse type Toys R Us experience where the whole retail experience is built around that.
I mean, yes, if it's
one,
no, you're right. If the whole industry changed, you know, you would be in the matrix where your physical world is gloomy in some ways, while your digital world is extra exciting, and that's okay for me. I don't feel like that's a step backwards.
I recommend you have a look at something called Hyper Reality. Then it's an amazing YouTube video. I'll send you the link. It's the best example, and actually, it kind of it does predict somewhat a dystopian future where AR becomes the norm potentially, and then it becomes this very dreary world where everything is augmented, all packaging. So you go to supermarkets in the actual video, there are in the supermarket, they augment, and you have your own digital overlay of your own reality overlaid. So everyone's existing within their own reality, which is then overlaid onto the physical world.
I can see that. I can see that happening, but it's not as scary as people think it is. Like, consumerism needs an evolution. If we make one box for every single thing, imagine how much more time we will be able to spend without AR. Because I don't need AR to look at the lake, you know, and watch birds fly and chill the fuck out and go camping and, you know, and exercise and do what I want to do. But my consumerism, you know, and is hurting the planet. And 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 you know, and I know how much time, like these micro decisions of, is this the right color for this brand? Like that, those conversations, uh uh like, what's the right word, when they extrapolated, I guess, to all of commerce, like it's a lot of time sucking that occurs, you know, and in those and I mean, maybe it can shift to digital and and change the world, or maybe it's just one very brave brand that says, you know, we are going to shake shit up, and we're going to debut our brand with no physical packaging. It doesn't mean that, you know, the retailer carries a bag of toys, you know, that just sits on the. It means that it's packaged in an eco-friendly, the most eco-conscientious box, and instead of having logos in, you know, printed, it has QR code.
So I think that's a really lovely idea, but it demands. So you actually just curious. So you think a digital brochure where a traditional brochure is augmented with AR actually would add value for the consumer experience potentially?
Yeah, I mean, like, think about what board games have done.
Right.
Like, every single board game now comes with a video on YouTube where if you tell Siri to play instructions for Ticket to Ride, there's an instruction video of somebody telling you how to play, showing you the video. Nobody wants to read shit. It is it is not how a lot. If you're a digital native, you maybe aren't the best reader.
Mm.
Like, so somebody telling you and giving you, like, why is Clubhouse so humongous, right? Why are podcasts, so humongous, is because the when you want the digital version of learning, but two, we're learning that maybe screens are it's just, if you remove the video from the information, you get people to tune in, to the message. And I think AR could be really interesting. Maybe you choose if it is a audio prompt that plays when you scan, or somebody can take you through the brochure and tell you how to play with this toy. Like, I do think that there is a very much an informational, the fact that it is never outdated, and it allows the toy to live longer. 65% of toys that are on the shelf today will not be on the shelf in 36 months. Like, that sounds like, wow, what an innovative business. No, in reality, it's what a formulaic business that creates a shitload of trash.
Basically.
That's what it is. And what an industry, what a wasteful industry that just blows money on R&D.
Mm.
Like, so we have to think about product development and brands from a much more longer life cycle, from a sustainability perspective, but not at the cost of not being able to adapt to a new consumer that literally ages in and ages out of our industry every year. And that's a difficult yin yang to balance. How do you make something that isn't obsolete in 3 years, while also knowing that your consumer is going to change over entirely in 3 years? And I'm not here to tell you I have the answer. I'm just here to say that I'm cognizant of the problem.
So with all these, with all these amazing insights that you've highlighted, I think it's brilliant what you've touched on. I haven't heard anyone talk about anything. I meant discuss something in that way yet. Why do you think AR has failed so much up until now?
Because it's being, as it's an afterthought. It's something that people see as an inexpensive way to replicate what they misqualify as magic. Like, that's the commonality of the most successful toys. It is magic. It is a feeling of how does that happen for a child?
Mm.
And AR is not magic to a child. They conceptually understand it. They understand it at a much deeper level than the older executives that are making the calls on including it in the toys.
Mm.
And it's not magic. It's just a thing that their phone can do.
Mm.
And like, what it needs to do is something that they don't realize how it does. It needs to connect them to something that's within them, not you know not something that a marketeer wants to talk about.
Mm. So it's And what about the extended universe of products? For example, this is something that Todd McFarlane gave me when I went to see him. I don't know if you're a fan. I'm a fan of Todd McFarlane, and he
Big fan. I'm a big Spawn guy.
big sport. Great.
Yeah, the video game had an impact on me growing up.
Okay.
I really like, what Todd has that in diverse marketing, we represent McFarlane at Walmart. So I'm pretty familiar with their line. We the His authenticity and his lack of moving away from what Spawn is, which is a really anti-hero. Like, he could have made more money and and taken Spawn down the Spider-Man route. There was a ton of demand for a PG-13 Spawn. Like, he could have made his money a lot. I mean, he obviously has, but he could have kept making it, and he didn't. He knew that the long term, discipline of keeping Spawn and his whole universe would pay off with the collector, and it has, because they've been able to get some incredible licenses away from Mattel and Hasbro, and their product is incredible, and they keep changing. And I'd love to know the story of that particular action figure.
This particular action figure is some robot Superman, and I never really looked into it. I didn't. I was given it to conceptualize some ideas with, and I was basically in Arizona, and I went there specifically to meet with Todd just before COVID happened, and then literally a week later, the US went into shutdown, and I left, and then everyone got locked down, and that basically unfortunately was just the outcome of that situation. And they moved forwards on a product called Shark, which was something I wanted to kind of focus on, some of the more interesting figurines, because that I felt there was a bigger opportunity to create something or experiment with something, and they felt that it was more important to move forwards with one of their less known toys, and that was the evolution of that. And this was just a gift that I got, and he has wings, and I keep it because I'm as an animator and someone that grew up with McFarlane, kind of the universe. I was just like, this is just super cool. I keep it on my desk anyway, and I'm just grateful for. Yeah. I was grateful for the gift that the man himself gave. I was grateful for the fact that I got to go into his office, see how he just watch him kind of ideate and create. He was sitting there just sketching away as he works in, and he kind of looked up, and then he just was, as he was talking to me, he was just kind of still sketching kind of Spawn characters. I think it was a cover of the next magazine, but it was just awesome to see his process and see the studio. And I would have very much loved to kind of develop something with them at the time. And
yeah,
that's still possible.
I agree.
That would have been awesome. But equally, he had tried his hand at AR as well, and he'd explored kind of having things come out, comic books, and they'd done some. They'd expanded on a couple of comic books. They did a few tests on comic books where they had characters coming out of the individual frames, and it just for some reason for him it didn't work. He wasn't sold on it. He didn't feel it added value. It didn't.
There is now. I mean, I'm sorry it took me this long to get here, but are you familiar with NFTs?
Yes, NFT shoes. Okay, yes. And I've been looking at NFT. A friend of mine just basically launched a sneaker, and they made 3.1 million in 7 minutes with an NFT.
Is it a digital sneaker, or did they combine it with a physical product?
It's a digital sneaker, digital. And they did amazing stuff with some fashion. They've got them. Sorry, carry on. I was gonna.
No, look, it's an obvious path. You create an NFT AR animation that is tied to the scarcity of the physical toy, and by buying the toy, they validate that AR is a unique scarcity or quantified blockchain living AR animation is now a lot more valuable than a just the bullshit, AR animation to a toy.
That is a genius idea, and when you integrate that with beautiful, what I've seen so far with fashion and AR and overlays on other, so you're able to track people and literally overlay the fashion, like really future. There's some beautiful examples of innovation in fashion through AR that I've seen today. And I think what you've just highlighted is potentially a very exciting space where NFT combines with AR to create something of value by its scarcity. I think that's...
AR has not been treated like art. It's been treated like fucking consumerism, like the McDonald's of art. And it doesn't have to be, it can be something extremely gorgeous, and it could be something that is extremely valuable. So and from a toyetic perspective, like how do you tie that into a mass market brand? You just apply the Willy Wonka strategy. So every single kid, when they buy a Hot Wheels, can now get an AR Hot Wheels animation. But the 10 cars that are in the universe, will also obtain an AR NFT that lives on the Mattel or lives on the blockchain, and it is the most intricate, AR, like they are in this world in your studio. It took you like 75 cameras to film this thing. So and they see each process, and and it's on the blockchain, and all of a sudden a kid who's 14, who's 4, can be in possession of an extremely valuable piece of digital artwork, the next big world-changing idea in culture. You are not dumbing it down, I would put NFTs times Mattel, or it should be pitched at that kind of level. And then, because then I think, do you know what the Mori Digital Arts Museum was or is? When you get a chance, look up Kid at Heart Tokyo and watch that episode. It's a little long, but I think now that you know me, it'll give you a lot of context. But this museum we went to, yes.
I was going to say, I also, because when you talk about Murakami, and I'm a big fan of Murakami, and you talk about Murakami combined with NFTs, but combined with with AR and a physical product, I think, and making it kind of art, I think somewhere there you've got something super interesting. And that being brought to life, because obviously it's inspired by Japanese anime. Murakami has never actually been given the life cycle, the universe that it deserves, because it's always been existing in physical sculptures or a traditional painting. But actually, there is a much greater universe that is yet to be explored with Murakami, that AR is probably perfect as a medium to encapsulate that, because it breaks boundaries.
No, I agree. It's just,
and there the NFT, there it has a tremendous amount of value, because it's already, you bring it, you celebrate it as high art again, high art futurism, digital high, like, which combines the excitement of Japan or Japanese culture, fruits. I used to love the magazine Fruits back in the day. And again, I'm of course obsessed by Japanese culture myself because of manga and Japanese anime, which is
I'm so into this shit. I got my own like little yakitori grill.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's a super hack, by the way, for healthy living.
So you've got your view, you got your grill, you got your leg.
Yeah, man. It's like simplicity. You don't need the mansions. You just need happiness. Um, but the thing I was gonna say about you can almost overcome the objection in the future in the present. So the biggest objection to NFTs is a very traditional perspective of how do I show off my art? Like how do I show people my digital collection? And what this museum showed me is the future of home decor is projection. You don't need to put wallpaper or paint your walls in the future. You have a projector that decorates your house in any way you want, your space. So NFTs and collecting them becomes significantly, more tangible when your physical space is being projected upon, your aesthetic and your decor. So I think we're moving into a world where we will be able to showcase these digital paintings or pieces of art better than even physical ones, because our spaces will be mobile, and we will move closer to global citizenship, and digital collections that can travel, in one hard drive, just fit a lot better into into this new idea of possessions and consumerism.
My mind's buzzing with ideas, and yeah. So what's the best way that we can continue conversations? I would love to just, I mean, keep brainstorming with you. You are you just a wealth of information. I think there's some really interesting stuff to do.
I
What's the next steps for you? What's your roadmap look like?
yeah. Look, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. This is my you can just, yeah, I mean, look, I like to smoke weed, so like if you if you want to plan a little, weed smoking time / toy time like that, I'm always down for that. I mean, I have a busy schedule, but like, I don't care. Like, just set something up in the future, and I'll be there, and invite cool people, and we can brainstorm and do whatever.
I've got some very good creators that we can brainstorm with. Is there anything that you can share with me in the interim so we can so I can kind of research? Is there anything you recommend that I research or look at just to kind of delve deep
Yeah,
subject matter?
yeah, for sure. I'll send you my deck. But I also for sure would love for you to watch Kid at Heart Tokyo.
Can you share the video with me? Kid at Heart Tokyo?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just Kid at Heart on YouTube Tokyo. It should be the first link that pops up. Um, and it's not good, but you can, in the same way that Bourdain showed or connected people through food, he found something universal in all people and was able to challenge their perspectives on other people, and on just learn so much from so many different people all over the world. Like, I really think I can do the same thing with play. Like, it is so universal that if that's the premise in which you go into somewhere new in the world, the people and the things that you would discover, I think are really meaningful for future generations, because like Mondays are my favorite day of the week. Like, I tell everyone that I have the best job in the world. Like, I am genuinely happier because of my career choices. And like, who isn't looking for that?
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying you should do what I do, but I'm saying that the business of play is here for you if you are interested. And and then playing in business is just the takeaway for anyone else that wants to do whatever else they want to do.
Mm.
Like, it's good for you.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I agree. I agree.
But I actually do need to run. I do have a 12 o'clock. I guess we have a few more. If you have any other questions, let me know.
I'm going to prepare also. I have a meeting in 7 minutes, so I'm going to stop the recording now. Lovely to talk to you, and I'm going to share this with you. Pause this.